Hello, possums. Well, again, it's all on, isn't it? It's so hard to work out how to triage the news and what to read on. You need a safety belt and a crash helmet just to open your news feeds. You just don't know what's going to be there. But let's start with the good news. Omaha, Nebraska. There's been a 20% swing to bring in a new mayor and they've elected a Democrat. Love that. Love that. All right. Well, I want to just dive in, first of all, with the David Hogg scenario. So remember, David Hogg was one of the young survivors of that horrendous school shooting in Florida, which is now, I think, 5 years ago or something. Now he's got an unpaid position as the deputy chair for the Democratic National Council or whatever it is. Now he's outspoken, yes. Mm-hmm. And he did say during the week, for those Dems who are asleep at the wheel, it's time to move over and make room for others. Now, not the most diplomatic of comments, you would say, but the Dem backlash from the institution is savage. They want him out now and hold that post up for a new election. I don't know. Look, you've got to get the young ones in, not only to attract the voters, but new ideas and energy. But let's have a look what they say. Will they get him out? What's going forward for David Hogg? I was rather hoping Emma Gonzalez would also step into politics, but she might be better off staying out of the cesspool. But let's have a look. David Hogg. The senior Dems are not happy. Uh, they want him to sign what they call a neutrality pledge. What is that? I pledge to be a white line in the center of the road. What is a neutrality pledge? And wouldn't you know, the Dems would have one and the other side wouldn't. Okay, let's have a look here. Come on down. David Hogg. Deals in background. Oh, there's Nancy Pelosi, who I'll talk about in a moment. Okay. This is trade-offs. They're basically saying, we'll get rid of you unless you can pull your head in, toe the line, and be one of us. He has to make that decision. He has to make that decision. I think he's quite critical of the old guard. I'm using this to represent Nancy Pelosi and Schumer and many of the others. He has a bigger vision. He gets the world card, bigger vision, and he's in for the long haul. I don't think they should make an enemy of David Hogg. It would be a shame if he got buried in the wilderness of a third party, although in the big picture, maybe that's what the US needs, is a real third party. However, they'd be better off using his talent and enthusiasm. Give him a task that the Dems need and let him harness that energy. For example, gun safety. He's perfectly placed to talk about that. When the older Dems talk about it, it's them versus us, and we know that always the story gets flipped on its head. They want to take our guns and all that. I think he could be really, really useful and get his stripes there with a topic like that that's close to his heart and it's a lived experience. So Let me know in the comments, but I'm actually on the side of roughing it up a bit. You know, need a bit more mongrel, as we say in Australia. Now, speaking of not having the mongrel, sorry, I don't want you to think I'm just dem bashing, but it's really important that every party is challenged from within and they need to test topics and passions with people and not just assume people will only vote for them if they're safe. Do not make that assumption. These are critical times. So when I think it was either Caroline Levitt, the bride of Chucky, or Pam Bondi herself, and Stephen Miller and others, this talking about arresting Dems. Now, this is outrageous. This is a tipping point into a failed state and martial law. We're all grown-ups here. We understand how important this is. Hakeem Jeffries came out and said it was a red line. What does that mean, Hakeem? How red is red? How high is the line? Okay. We will not allow the arrest of these people. Well, I hope he means that. I mean, I'd be happier, I have to say, if he was more strident in the sense this is where the Dem messaging tends to be a bit of limp lettuce. This is an opportunity for them all to be saying, we will not allow the arrest of people who are in opposition to the government because that is what they do in Russia and North Korea. They demonize the opposition, jail them, exile them, and they fall out of windows. We will not let this happen in the United States. No. So he sat there with his legs crossed going, it's a red line, it's really important. People want passion, they deserve passion. Enough of the rant. Okay. So, did you see, speaking of Bride of Chucky, the White House spokesman, Caroline Levitt went to the press corps, or what's left of them, the three people who were left able to interview the White House spokesperson. And she just finished saying, regarding the China talks, how strong and masterful the Yeti was, and there'd be no extensions. I've just spoken with the president, and he's told me no, there won't be any extensions. And then there was a newsfeed interruption going 90-day extension. As she was speaking, she just got her little sycophantic sentence out. Oh, my word. All right, so let's have a look. We've got to keep going on the tariffs. 90 days, which of course keeps business on edge. Small businesses can't handle this. Big businesses are not happy. Jeff Bezos. Ooh, let's have a look at that. Jeff Bezos has said because of the tariffs, he has moved global headquarters of Amazon offshore out of the United States. Let's have a look. Will other big companies follow? That's John Deere, that's Amazon. Ooh, that was just sloppy. Will other big companies follow? I don't know. Oh my God, look at these cards. I'm thinking, yes, they might, because this is ridiculous. So 2 days ago, China had 145% tariffs. Then it was talked about 10%, like the rest of the world, including us in Australia. And then there was an extra 20% for fentanyl, which is illegal, as if governments can actually stop the production of illegal drugs. Imagine if a bigger country or voting bloc in the rest of the world said to America about American guns turning up in gangs and stuff? Like the Mexican president made that point very early on. So now we're sitting at 30% with China, or maybe not, for 90 days, might stop, might not. No one knows. But look at these cards. This is my pretend happy Republican family. Do you notice the Yeti never mentions the Republican Party? He doesn't see himself as the leader of the Republican Party. He never mentions them. I thought I heard him once during the week, and I was so shocked he even mentioned them at all, because he sees himself, as he says, the leader of the USA and the world. Okay, but they are going to be really jaundiced after this. This is the Tower, this is the Ten of Swords, and this is the Death card for big companies staying in the US. They've had enough. I mean, they all lined up to bend the knee at the time because they thought tax breaks for us. Yeah, sure, Mr. President. Look at them now. Look at them now. And China wants, of course, to get back into making huge amounts of money exporting everything. But at the same time, thanks to JD Vance, they're not in a rush. All right, so let's look at the Yeti stumbling around the Middle East. And there was a lot of coverage on day one where he was saluting every passing oligarch. You know, we know the story of Jamal Khashoggi entering the Saudi embassy and coming out having been carved up in a bag, allegedly, YouTube. Okay. But he morphs from ruler of the world into easily impressed 10-year-old boy in these contexts. And I didn't know till yesterday, the United States president is not just supposed to salute other leaders. I didn't know that. They will salute the American flag and serving members and stuff, but I think it's actually a thing. But in any event, he's got his little Yeti paws in the air at every opportunity. It's bizarre. Now, as predicted here and elsewhere, the ceasefire negotiations, I feel sorry for the people who are setting up the conference rooms in Turkey waiting, because Putinska had no intention of ever going, I think. Won't turn up and is apparently going to send fourth level lackeys, like not even his top people. And so Erdogan won't be happy. Let's have a quick look at Erdogan here. Erdogan, because he thought, as the big man of the region, you know, I can host this and broker this ceasefire with Ukraine and Russia. No one's turning up. Oh, I'll use the Russian cards. No one's turning up. I mean, Zelensky might make a point and appear, but he knew and he said that Putinska will not turn up. Let's have a look. Well, the key to negotiations, the devil. Oh my God. I think this means Putinska realized if he opens this door, he's going to be caught in the crosshairs of international opinion, because on the one hand, he'd like to be accepted by the West. That's a deeper desire. But he sees himself as a strong man, and that would mean once the door's unlocked, this is the devil card here, and he's notoriously paranoid. Is he a drinker? Is he not? He never struck me particularly as a drinker, but something's going on. Something's going on with this Five of Cups. I think he's totally, totally exhausted and feels cornered. So he's decided the only thing he controls is his own door. And he's keeping it locked while other people are trying to get in. No. Oh, my word. Now, remember, those of you intrepid viewers who watch each video, in the last video, and I think I even called it, Will Trump Take on Big Pharma? Because he'd said, I don't know why I still get sucked in. Out of all the stuff, sometimes I still think he makes a statement and I think about what that would actually mean. Why would anyone still do it, including me? Why? Anyway. And he said, Americans pay too much for prescription drugs. Absolutely. They pay more than everywhere else in the world. And yet he made the claim, I'm going to lower the price of prescription drugs, which terrified me in terms of much as I'd love you guys to have cheaper drugs, that you can imagine how successful it would be with voters. Wrong. He didn't mean that at all. Because you can imagine Big Pharma would have been on the phone and in the Oval Office and not happy with that statement. And so he clarified it by saying, no, no, he didn't mean lower drugs for Americans. He meant everyone else in the world should pay more for their drugs, and then America wouldn't be paying the most. Did you catch that? Were you sitting down? No. Not bringing down the price of insulin or Ventolin or anything else. No, make the rest of the world pay more, even if they're produced in the rest of the world, so Americans wouldn't pay the most. That is so convoluted, it boggles the brain. Is it not astounding? My God. Okay, so let's see. Um, there's a major health insurer, United Health Group, and they're being investigated for possible, I say possible YouTube, Medicare fraud. They're a particular group who get more money for seriously ill people. So, as you know better than anyone, American viewers, there are lots of insurance agencies that don't want to know about sick people, right? You know, that's another thing. But this group concentrates on the seriously ill. Now, the fraud that is being discussed, potentially, allegedly, the fraud is because they get more money for each seriously ill patient, it's leading to questionable diagnoses. That's not good. So that has to mean that people are being diagnosed with more serious illnesses than they actually have, so the insurance company can make money. How else could you construe that? We're scraping the bottom of the barrel. Shocking, shocking, shocking. So let's see, will this investigation go ahead? Who are they? United Health Group, Medicare fraud. Let's have a look at their story. Mm. Oh, two cards. All right, what we have here, oh, this is, How do they sleep at night? I know that's a redundant question, but look, playing on people's emotions is what they do. The fact they've got people over a barrel is one thing for general health care, but this is another dimension of literally freaking people out, thinking they've got a more serious disease than they have. I'm just saying I'm only a humble tarot reader from Australia, but I think they've been working hard at that. I think they've been working at that night and day. I think they absolutely have been doing this thing. It may be hard to prove, and some of the revelations will be shocking. This might be a case where, because Josh Hawley and some GOPers, not that I've got much time for Josh Hawley per se, but at least he's holding the line on some things to not be the cruelest of the cruel. I think they might even have a bit to say about this. But then once they do, it's a bit like the David Hogg thing in the thing. I think some Republicans will stand up and then they'll be told to toe the line on this issue. Don't touch big pharma. Now, why are they even allowed to have shares in this is beyond me. And look, when we look at the $400 million plane and stuff, and people are jumping up and down about the emoluments clause, post going down the golden escalator, when the Yeti from the White House lawn famously said, "Come and stay in my hotels," that was a direct and massive and unprecedented contradiction of the emoluments clause. We all had to run around learning how to pronounce and spell the Emoluments Act. He hasn't been pulled up in 10 years. But let's have a look. Will the Qatari jet be a bridge too far? Oh, shame file for this week. I think there's so many nominees every week, but could be Pam Bondi herself. Turns out, you will be amazed, not. She was a lobbyist for Qatar in 2020. Okay, nothing to see here. All right. So the plane, what's happening? What's happening with the plane? Whose reaction? Will MAGA react to the plane or they're beyond it and don't care? Let's just see, will there be pushback from the plane scenario? Will it even happen? The plane. And there's talk of it replacing Air Force One. And we were just talking on Hogarth about this. Imagine the bugging devices that would be built into that particular plane. Can you imagine it? So even if subsequent presidents got access to it because whatever. So okay. What's happening with the stupid plane? Oh, not the best idea. Not the best idea and could be a legal outcome. Now, I think this is the card of compromise and a bit of wheeling and dealing, which led to this. You can't blame Qatar or other regions because they know they're dealing with this juvenile, easily bedazzled, absolute cretin with the brain of a goldfish. They know how easy it is to manipulate. Don't blame them. However, the Tower's getting a workout today. The Tower. This is the sort of thing that could come back to haunt him and lose him voters, actually, there's something about it, you know. This is behind the scenes as we speak. What do we do about this? He really wants the plane. He really wants it. And he gets everything he wants. And others saying, are you crazy? Are you fucking delirious? Look at this. And this is the legal outcome of it. In fact, I think with this tower thing, it's the sort of thing, even if this blows over as a news story, even if they don't take possession of the plane, even if it still has the potential to blow the lid off something, including his relationship with dictators. You know that. Oh my God. So the plane is sort of something everyone can understand on some level. You know, so if I told a MAGA supporter, do you know your taxes were being used for his security guards to stay in his hotels and stuff? They're just la 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 la. But sort of on some gut level, they might get this. I don't know. Okay, so while I'm shuffling for you guys, Musk is disappearing from our world and the headlines. Have you noticed? So it would appear the Tesla board is going to replace him. Doge has collapsed. I don't know what's happening with SpaceX, but things aren't going well. But a new court case has just been brought because he failed to pay the campaign workers. Isn't that typical? They are so averse to paying people for their labor. They hate it. They see it as a waste of money. They are so dehumanized. They're just counting down the days till AI replaces everybody and you've got 0.02 of 1%, the wealthy and the beautiful who will be allowed to breed. You know, it's so dystopian. So let's get rid of all that and look at you guys. Advice going forward. Advice. Advice for you guys from the universe. Oh, oh, that's nice. Look, this is like I was saying at the top of this video. This is waking up every day and going, oh no, what now? You know. It's absolutely exhausting. We all know that. But here's the thing. There's much more energy for you to tap into. So take advantage of that. Listen to people speaking who make you feel stronger and who make you feel calmer. In other words, it's still important to keep up with the news, but particularly at night before you go to bed, listen to people who are strong and sane and make sense to you. I mean, it might be a spiritual podcast or something, but something that's positive is really important. This person is a positive speaker. And action, this is the card of action we got before in another context. Action is the best antidote to feeling powerless and feeling paralyzed. Taking an action. And it's things like small things or big things or anything. What action are you doing to be part of the resistance? What action can you take? And that can be related to people or to animals or to anything, some good thing in the world. And now funding it keeps getting cut for food banks and things. Can you help generate donations for a food bank in your district? Something you can do as an eco warrior, as a spiritual warrior, as a decent human, What action can you take? There's the challenge. So let me know in the comments. But by doing that, it really helps your energy levels and helps you feel you have a bit more control in your own scenario and your own space. So this is also communicating with others, and this is action. Give me some feedback on all these things, guys, in the comments. So take care and see you soon. Bye now.